Hello, fellow students and Professor Stevens. I'm James Penson, and today I'm doing my speech on food as a drug. The diagnosis was cholesterol high, borderline diabetic, and basically out of shape. Wonder how many Americans hear this news daily from their physicians. The doctor prescribes a diet low in fat and sugar, but the urge to consume these things is too great. From the smell of fried chicken, cooking at Bojangles, to the dough rising at the Krispy Kreme, to the 2 cups of sugar in the sweet tea Southerners so desperately crave. The temptations are endless. Is it a simple craving, or could it be something more? Could it be an addiction to a drug Americans can't do without? With obesity at epidemic levels and large percentages of Americans seemingly addicted to high-fat, high-sugar diets, food has become the most prevalent drug in this fast food, deep-fried culture. Addiction. Addiction is described as the continued repetition of a behavior despite adverse consequences, or a neurological impairment leading to such behaviors. With this definition, most people would think of drugs such as cocaine, heroin, or some other illegal substance, with continued repetition leading to adverse consequences. What about food? Americans eat 3 meals a day on average, and Americans are overweight with high levels of diabetes. So again, both requirements for addiction: repetition and possible adverse consequences. Food to the obese or diabetic can be just as addictive as cocaine to a drug addict. The only difference being that food is legal to consume, and a person can't go to jail for eating a double Whopper with cheese. During a study that was performed, the effects of a high-fat diet on rats suggest that high-fat, high-calorie foods affect the brain the same as cocaine or other drugs. The study showed that when rats consumed these foods in high quantities, they exhibited compulsive behavior and eating habits that resembled drug addiction. In other words, eating junk food and doing drugs both gradually overloaded the pleasure centers of the brain. The rats would gorge themselves on the high-fat human foods used in the study and gradually developed a tolerance to the pleasure the food gave them. The rats had to eat more food to experience the same high, resulting in obese rats. The study, published in the journal Nature Neuroscience, stated that once rats were obese from the high-fat, high-calorie diets that they had been subjected to, the rats could not be frightened away. They were solely focused on the food. Sugar. Sugar is another substance that is now considered to be addictive. Again, addiction is described as continued repetition of behavior despite adverse consequences. Diabetics and the obese know the adverse effects of sugar, but yet struggle to refrain from consuming them. U.S. researchers revealed that among women studied, relationships to food resemble dependence or addiction. Women who lost control or ate more than they should appeared to anticipate food the same way an addict would anticipate another fix. Women were shown pictures of ice cream and would exhibit the same cravings as an addict dependent on drugs or alcohol. The research revealed that after the ice cream was consumed, the reward was not nearly what was expected. So the women would consume more, hoping to satisfy that craving, much as an addict would with drugs. Pictures of something sweet and delicious actually activated the same areas of the brains as using cocaine. Is sugar the other white powder? Sugar highs, as they are sometimes called, can act very similar to drug highs. The pleasure centers of the brain will desire increasing amounts of sugar, much as the brain would with a drug. The desire of increasing amounts of food led to binge eating and a lack of control to a level that caused overeating. Drug addicts exhibited a preoccupation or obsession with drugs, and food addicts were found to exhibit the same preoccupation and obsessions. An addiction to drugs such as cocaine or heroin is serious and dangerous. But as evident through research, addictions to food can be just as threatening. Americans are at epidemic levels of obesity and diabetes due to the addictive qualities of the foods eaten. But not everyone who overeats is an addict, and not every addict overeats. With product names such as Krispy Kreme, Coke, Pepsi, Kentucky Fried, and additives like cane juice crystals, dextrose, and corn sweetener, who can resist? Even the names are addictive. Think about this advertisement slogan: Snickers really satisfies. Well, it's hard to resist that. Knowing that food is addictive, what can be done to break the food addiction? First, it's part of this culture, especially the Southern culture. It started on Sundays many years ago, when Sunday dinner was a grand happening, when families were invited over to take part in fried chicken. Collard greens and fat and grease were used for seasoning. Fat cans or grease cans are on top of every stove in the South. Southerners even put grease in the pan to cook fat back. How much more grease do you need to cook fat back? First, people have to break with the culture. Remove the grease cans from the top of the stove and use olive oil. Next, stop going out to eat at fast food restaurants every day. The restaurants are there to make money. The fat, high-calorie diets that these restaurants have are very addictive and are hard to overcome. And last, to break the food addiction, find a way to stay away from the high-fat, high-calorie diets that lead to the addictive lifestyles. Drug addicts have found a way, so now do food addicts have to find a way. Thank you.